Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Vinyl Stallions.
Vinyl Stallions.
Right on.
We are. Yes, and we have a great guest today. We have Mr. James Thaddeus of Cleveland, Ohio. James, how we doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. I ain't been on a podcast in a while. You looking so official in your studio? It's looking so good. Look at the microphone. You got the soundproofing. You got the poster. You got the.
We do have the stallion.
Behind you? Oh, that is a horse. Okay.
It's a stallion. It's what this podcast is basically named after. This is the Vinyl Stallion, and then we got a little throwback Mario card as well. But no, it's not much. You throw up some soundproofing.
Familiar.
You throw up soundproofing in your room, and you got a studio. But we're rolling with it.
Right.
But
so
awesome.
True. That's so true.
Yeah. So yeah, James plays guitar, and I believe you sing as well. And
SNES, Mario.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's a throwback, baby. I know it's going to distract us the whole time because this is a timeless game.
I just had to I had to drop a moment of appreciation for that game
and warp you back.
So much time spent on Donkey Kong Country, and the music from that game was unbelievably cool. I still listen to some of that old NES music, honestly.
Dude,
that game is hard. If you beat Donkey Kong Country, kudos to you. That game is hard.
Not without help, but that soundtrack is so amazing. So many memorable songs from some of them old games. I think video game music is very underrated and underappreciated.
Dude, Mario 64
Absolutely.
slaps. I listen to some of those honestly sometimes as well.
Yeah, I love video game music.
Specifically Nintendo. Yeah,
Nintendo's great. A lot of that stuff. And on them RPGs. Oh, it's so great, I just found out of a band called Cassiopeia. It's a Japanese prog rock band from the late 70s. And they I feel like they set the standard for all video game music. Even though obviously video games weren't around in the late 70s, but if you listen to them, you hear the influence they had on all the composers that make all the video game music that we hear today and from the 90s till today. This band's just out of this world. If you ever get a chance, listen to Cassiopeia.
Okay.
Amazing.
You ever listen to a band called Dream Theater?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're same thing. It's video game music.
Yeah. My keys player Jeff, he just saw them in Akron. I want to say a month ago.
Dude, I was at that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Akron Civic Theater. Such a cool venue.
Yeah, man. He said it was amazing. I've always admired John Petrucci as the guitar player. He's incredible.
Believe it or not, he was probably the most underwhelming of the five that were there. And I mean, he still did really good. That's more of saying how good everyone else did than a knock on him.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Totally. I know. He's kind of the guy you expect to be amazing. But it's always good to get some surprises when you're at a show. Oh, I didn't know that guy was amazing. That guy blew my mind,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So that's cool. Yeah, I love the prog stuff. Always have, for sure. Definitely.
It's different. Like you said, video game music, but man, it'll take you on a journey with those 10, 13-minute songs where you're spare me. But
a lot of that stuff it seems was meant to be done in an album form, prog rock really relies on the album as a whole. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, it's just something they always kind of have to try to seems like a lot of the artists, the main prog rock artists over time have had a concept behind their album piece by piece,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like the prog stuff.
That's half the reason we're doing this podcast as well, is to listen to music how it's supposed to be listened, in that album form, straight through. It's all specifically put there on purpose. So it's evident in music, but especially in that prog rock genre.
Yeah, totally. That's cool. I'm sure Dream Theater was amazing. And I've seen some good artists in my time. What you guys been listening to?
Man, we've dove
You want
into
to go
the
first, Spruce?
yeah, I was gonna say we dove into the new Red Hot Chili Peppers album, and that's been just like slapping
Okay.
for me recently. Man, we gotta send you this playlist we always talk about on this podcast, but we're up to almost 3,000 songs, and we've added. You showed us Cactus from the
Yeah.
1970s. You sent that to me. I showed it to Klepp, and we have that whole album on it now, their debut album. And dude, yeah, it has all kinds of music. So whatever that fuckboy playlist offers me, I click shuffle, and that's what I'm listening to.
That's amazing. Yeah, Cactus, another great band out of Detroit. Detroit cranks out great bands. Just go back. It's just a deep history. All the
Absolutely.
bands in Detroit.
Yeah, that was that's like sort of what I've been listening to recently is like a lot of like Detroit soul, Motown music from like the 70s, 80s, even 60s.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's good stuff. That Chili Peppers album is pretty good too, by the way. I've listened to it a few times myself. Frusciante is up there as one of my biggest influences. I think like I'm a huge fan of his solo work. Like I have a lot of his records, and I know how important he is to that band. I've known for a long time because I listen to his solo work. I know he's a great songwriter. Like people think he's just a great guitar player. No, like this guy can write a lot of great songs on his own.
And sing. He
It's
has
pretty
that
remarkable.
voice that's huge.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
too. His
Like,
singing voice is like amazing. I mean, it's like unquestionably he's the best singer in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. No offense to Anthony Kiedis, but like it's just magnificent, man. Like it brings tears to my eyes hearing him sing sometimes. I actually got like emotional when I listened to that for the first time when I heard John play and sing, and I was like, man, I'm like, it was definitely like I didn't think I'd ever hear him play with the Chili Peppers again, and like it just felt so good to hear again, even because he gets really experimental. He's got some like electronic stuff where it just like, and then he made an album about his cat who'd passed away. I think was his like latest solo release, and it's like, but he tries anything and everything. And one thing I admire about Frusciante is like he don't care about fame. Like he'll give it up just to make a bunch of solo stuff. Like yeah, he can be in the Chili Peppers, but he can do whatever he wants, and he just likes creative expression. And like if he feels like the band's limiting him, he'll leave and go solo for a while. So.
history, it repeats itself, baby. We're in the middle of it once more. But yeah, we're going to see them
Yeah.
in August. I'm so fucking pumped. Them, the Strokes, and
Nice.
Thundercat
Wait, they're on the same lineup?
in
Yeah,
Detroit.
it's at Comerica Park in Detroit. But those
Wow.
three artists are I think Thundercat's with them the whole tour. The Strokes, I believe, are only with them the last leg of it. And then there's a
Wow.
rap artist for the beginning of it. I can't remember. Maybe Chance the rapper. Does that sound right, Spruce?
No, I would have remembered if it was Chance. I'm not exactly sure though, but yeah, it was definitely someone else on that first half.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Cool.
rap artist though, but Thundercat I believe is with him the whole tour.
That's amazing. That's an incredible lineup. The Strokes, especially, like, man, I've never seen them, but I'm a pretty big fan of their work too.
Same, yeah. Like I've never been to a show, but I've always I haven't really taken like a deep dive, but I know like a good handful of their songs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that guy's a great songwriter too. He just covers it all. He plays like, his that's from some of them Stroke songs sounds like they're from like way back in the day. They take you back almost like one of them
Yeah,
artists that like transcend time almost.
yeah. One of the first songs I ever learned on drums was Reptilia. It's super simple. Like you need something to just you gotta start somewhere, and that one
Yeah,
was one that was easy to learn. So that song always holds a special place in my heart.
that's cool. You guys got a favorite track off that Chili Peppers album?
I always forget the name of it, but it's the second one.
Yeah, it's
No, I wouldn't
it's here something. It's here.
Yeah, yeah. It might just be like Here Again or something like that. That one and The Great Apes.
Great Apes, right on. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Oh,
that one's good. I love the white braids and pillow chairs. Like halfway through that, it just kind of turns into like a little bit of like a slap your thigh kind of thing, and I'm like dancing in my kitchen every time it comes on.
Yeah, that one's good. I actually there wasn't really too many ones that were hard to get through on that record, and even some of the best Chili Peppers albums have a couple that are like, eh. but but I thought the Heavy Wing, that was probably my favorite.
Yeah, I was listening to that one in the gym today, and yeah, that one's pretty solid.
Yeah,
I really
man.
liked What You Thinking too.
Yeah, they're doing all right. Rick Rubin is a good producer. He doesn't usually let anything his name get on anything that's bad.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It's
a
like
good point.
it's a certified automatic good album if his name exists on it. And I don't know if you ever seen their documentary on Funky Blood Sugar, but he produced that. That's a pretty cool documentary.
The Funky Monks.
Yeah, it's amazing. That might
It
be one of the
is.
best songs too. Whew.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, no. You slid into our DMs when we posted oh shoot, I forget which one it was, like the slippery I can't even think of it, but it's off that album. But you were like, shout out, the song needs more rep.
Oh, was
Yeah,
it
man.
Mellowship Slinky in B
Yeah,
minor?
Slinky.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
Yeah.
song is so good. And Frusciante singing in that song is unreal.
The opening riff in that is just like, whoa, man.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind. That all the guitar on that record's incredible. I've listened to like you can listen to like just Frusciante's guitar for that record, and I've done that a few times. Like just the solo guitar track. It's
Hold on
amazing.
one sec.
Hell
Since we're
yeah.
talking about it.
Bring it out, club. Ooh.
Oh, there we go.
In that documentary they even show them taking those pictures. Oh, we got dogs in the house.
Yeah, that's right. I remember specifically John Frusciante like smoking cigarettes and eating like pizza, like cig, taking a bite out of pizza, hit the cigarette,
Tongue
pizza.
out.
He's such a goofball, man.
Nah,
But
he's an inspiration. It's shout out to the Chili Peppers. It's great that they're back in 2022. And
yeah, man.
whatnot. But yeah, man, we want to dive into you. We want to figure out what the hell is going on in James's life nowadays, because we met back at I think the Grog Shop in 2019. It was like my second show with a band called Tomo Alone, and I think you didn't play. You just so happened to be hanging out there that night, and yeah, we ran
Wasn't
up.
it Reagan League?
I don't.
Reagan League, wasn't it?
I don't know. I don't even think so. You guys might have. It was us and Hannah Stack, and then we played with another. It was a duo. I don't think they're around anymore, but they were from the East Side. I forget their name. But I think you were there. And who is the lead singer? So you play in a band called Rubik's Groove, and
Yeah.
it's a 9-piece band. And you were there with whoever your lead singer was as well. I forget her name. Shannon. That's correct. And yeah, so we ran in, we were talking for a little bit. I've been following you guys ever since in Rubik's Groove, and then Ringleaf is the other one you're in as well.
Yep.
And so which one, so tell us the history kind of behind both of them. Which one did you kind of start in, and how did that develop for you to be in two bands? Because people struggle to get even into one and fluidly practicing and everything, but damn, you're doing two.
Yeah, the Rubik's Groove formed basically as organic as a band can possibly form. Basically, like so a couple older guys that I knew, I used to play a lot of bar gigs back in the day. You know, when you're coming up and you're just kind of trying to find your way as a musician, you just try to, I guess, play as many gigs as you can. So you get in the circuit with them jam nights, and you meet whoever you can. And there was a couple old timers, just veterans on the scene who had wanted to play a funk band. They were a drummer and bass player. And so I heard from a friend that they were looking for a guitar player to start a funk band. So I went and jammed with them one time. And I was at the same time, I had just met Shannon, I want to say like around that time. And so I'd maybe jam with those guys 2 times. And then Shannon she messaged me some song one day. It's like Betty Davis, who just passed away, I want to say last year, like a pioneer of like funk music. And she And when she told me she was into like old funk music, and I just started jamming with these guys that were doing funk, I'm like, well, come on in, like, show up. I'm like, you ever sing in a band? Like, I just started jamming with these guys. And so she just showed up, and, you know, she's obviously as nice as can be. And they were just like, you know, we don't care if you haven't sang before, like, do whatever you can. And so we started learning some songs. And so it started as a band called Charlie. And what that was basically a band that those guys had been in before that. And so we went about a year as that. And then I don't know, we just kind of wanted to, we had like issues on, I couldn't get them old guys to learn some of the newer songs. And they kind of wanted to, I don't know, do their own thing, which was as easy as possible, kind of like the bare minimum. And we're a little bit younger, and I think we were a little bit hungrier. We just wanted to write a lot more songs and wanted to like really take it to the next level once we started seeing like how, I guess, all the opportunities we could have with a band like that. And there just didn't seem to be that many in town that were like, you know, a funk band who's writing their own music. And, you know, really I have I love a lot of different types of music, but I did originally get really into the blues when I started playing guitar. So it naturally kind of like enabled funk, because they're kind of one and the same almost, if you will. Like they follow a lot of the same like chords and melodies, but the rhythm is definitely like a big difference in the two. And so I had a lot to learn because I was never really a funk player. I was a blues guy, and Shannon was a blues singer. That's more like her natural style. So I took a bunch of old musicians that I'd been playing with and just known over the years, and we did a name change and we formed Rubik's Groove. And that was after about a year of Charlie, maybe like six, 7 gigs, I think. The first show we ever played was at the Beachland Tavern, July 22nd, 2016. And it was playing with Maggie Corner, who was a singer for Galactic for a while. And we got really lucky that night because whatever show was in the ballroom canceled, and they flooded the tavern. So we had like a full tavern for our first show ever, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And it was like Shannon's first time ever singing. So she was like, oh, wow, this is what it's like. And so that was kind of cool. And yeah, after, you know, and Shannon became a friend of mine. Really, you know, we got really close as the band was forming. And it just kind of became a family after that. Like it kind of started with me and Shannon, and like, you know, our tight, like being as close as we are at the top of the band, it kind of like creates like a nice family atmosphere. So we just had all these musicians that were really buying into what we were doing, and it became like easy to find musicians that wanted to play with us because there just wasn't that many, I guess, bands like us, and they saw it as a good opportunity. So so we started Rubik's Groove in 2019. I said July 22nd, 2016, but it was actually 2018 was our first show. And then that was with Charlie. And then Rubik's Groove formed in 2019, the very beginning of 2019, when we branched off of Charlie, wanted to go our separate way, start our own group. And so basically, John, the trombone player, it's basically, since then, it's been like him, me, Shannon, Jason. We've been like the consistent 4 members ever since the beginning of 2019. So we got a lot of good chemistry there, and it kind of operates almost like a business would, like, because there's so many members, you have like a brass department, and then you have like your rhythm department because we got drums and percussion. You got like your vocal and lyrics department because we got like 2 or 3 people singing. And then you got like your solo and leads department, which is like keyboards, you know, saxophone, me. And so it's almost like you start to like, as you know, you do it, you get like more and more used to doing it. You kind of start finding interesting ways to like operate as a band and make it work, you know? And so that's one of the ways I made it work. And man, like those guys do so much work. They make it all like really fun to come back to practice every week. I mean, practice is a blast, like with those guys. Like I told you earlier, like having a 9-piece is a blessing and a curse because sometimes you don't even fit on a stage. You literally can't even play at a place because you don't even fit on a stage. Wrangling everybody to do photo shoots, you know what I mean? Like all these little things you wouldn't even typically think about. It's just like sometimes it works against us, but like the feeling we get when we play together is so good. They're like, man, it's so worth it. Like, even if we were just playing in the basement, not even playing shows, it would be great. But like, yeah, when we get on stage, it's definitely a blast. I feel like it's just the chemistry we have with one another is like, I feel like we just don't ever really have any weird like moments on stage. It's like anything that almost becomes an error, we like quickly turn into like an opportunity to do something cool. And I've never been in a band like that. I feel like there's always something that where it's like, ah, man, we had that where we could have. And this band, it's like, oh, like that was almost a mess up, but damn, we kept it rolling and we turned it into something totally cool on the fly. Like, wow. So it's cool. It's definitely a great band. And we just wrote like 5 new songs. We put that EP out last July. We did our EP show at the Beachland Ballroom. It was a great show. Sea Level was on support along with our friend Uncle Gnarly. That was great. And that was a good time. And we did a few more shows that year. Last one we did was at the Foundation Room. And we'll be back there here May 13th. And we got another one at Crowbar here May 6th. And then I think, you know, we just started writing we finished 5 songs in like 2 months. So we're probably going to hit the studio with these. And we got a couple new members. We got Steve from a band called Grav. We got Jeff Malashok. He wasn't really playing in anybody a year ago, and now he's playing with Vibe and Direct. He's playing with us, and he's playing with a band called Shoreline Funk All Stars. And then we got Jason on drums. I told you he's been with us since the very beginning. John Griffin, he's a sax player. He's usually played in like some wedding bands, like gig bands. But he's a BW grad of music school. He's unbelievable saxophone player. And then the trumpet player, he's from like New York, like rural New York. He came here, he moved here from there. And then the trombone player, John, he's from Chicago. So we got some people from other places in on the band too. And Blake came in from a band that I was playing with, Constant Source. He was the drummer there. He's the percussion player in this band. He's great. So yeah, man, it's a nice cast. It's definitely, it's a good time. Like I said, it's like a family. It like literally has grown into just like a family atmosphere where we just kind of got each other's back, and we even like we talk personal stuff. Like we're there for everybody, like whatever they're going through, you know, like because that kind of helps grow like as a band. Like I wrote a song about like Blake and like some of the stuff I'd seen him going through, like at the end of 2019. And I don't know, it's just cool. I feel like to grow that way. I've never really been in a band that kind of grew like that. And I could just tell like everybody's getting better, more confident in what they're doing. And over time, I think it's just kind of making sure everybody gets more involved and have their moment to shine. And like, you know, the important thing about a band this big is like allowing everybody to kind of like have their input, like, and their voice heard. And, you know, never like really suppress anybody, kind of have a democratic policy with everything that we do, and make sure like 8 people could be down to do this gig, but if one person doesn't want to do it, like then we don't do it. You know what I mean? Like we have that override policy. And you know, and some bands you could just get a fill in, sure, but like we like to like keep that chemistry tight, and just like you know, we don't really want to make anybody feel like they're replaceable, because I don't feel like anybody is replaceable, you know. So
Yeah, that's a like honestly that was like one of the coolest like ways to explain your band that we've heard.
really.
Yeah, and one thing I thought that was interesting too. So the first band we ever had on Sit Down with the Stallions is a band called Ice Cream Militia, and they're sort of like, it's very hard to describe their genre. They're like funk, they're like a little bit of reggae, a little bit of punk,
That's
but
cool.
they're 10 members, and they said the same thing, that there's some venues where it's hard to fit on the stage. So I thought that was interesting that you said the same thing, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's some venues where you're barely fitting on there, and
Yeah, I think last year we were supposed to do a gig at High and Dry, in Tremont there on Professor,
Oh,
and
that's tight.
it was like I'm looking at the stage the day like we're supposed to go there and play, and I'm just like, yeah, somebody's gonna have to go off the stage. and I don't want that, so I just canceled the show. That don't work, man. Like, I just don't want to do that. Like, I feel like it just don't look right. I feel like, and I don't want that person to feel like, oh, like I got left out because I'm off the stage. Like, I don't know, but yeah, it is a total anomaly, but it's worth it. It's a lot of fun, and you get a lot of. The nice thing about it, a band this big is like everybody can do just a little bit to make for like a huge sound, and I'm sure that Ice Cream Militia was the same way. It's like not everybody has to be doing a ton all the time. Like if everybody just plays their role and does a little bit, like the sound can be massive, like and really like transcendent, if you will, like you get that much going on at once. It can be good. We got a real big show planned. It hasn't been announced yet, but basically we're we're merging with another local band to do like a super mega set at the Beachland Ballroom, and we're gonna like combine with a 5-piece band to make a 14-piece band and do like a special set of songs, probably like a one-time deal.
Yo, that sounds kick ass. You have to keep us posted. We will absolutely
Yeah.
be there for that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Shout out to the Beachland. They are so receptive of the ideas I've thrown at them. I'm so glad. Like a place like the Beachland, like just having a place like the Beachland in the city, like makes you want to start a band just so you can be on that stage. You know what I mean?
You're preaching to the choir, baby. I just want to be up on there one time. I want to know what it
Right.
feels like to be in the Beachland like that. Because there's some great bands that go through there, and like
Yeah.
it kind of feels it for like a local, at least for myself. It's just like that's the first step right there. Get on the Beachland stage and then
Yeah.
work your way up from there, because that's definitely one of the biggest ones in the area.
For sure. I think I've always been a West Sider too, but I'll always favor the Beachland, and that's not even really a knock on any of the West Side venues. I think it's just kind of they just got something you can't get, you just can't mimic. I think a lot of the older venues, like the Grog Shop, kind of has that effect too. But like, we're losing a lot of the older venues in town.
Yeah.
It happened with Peabody's. Peabody's was the first place I ever played when I was in high school, and so that one was kind of a bummer when we lost that.
I used to hear their commercials on the radio all the time. I live in Toledo now, but I'm originally a West Sider, like West Cleveland and then Westlake. And so, yeah, like you're speaking my language. Spruce, you lived in Westlake too.
Yeah, I live right over in that area. But yeah, there's a couple that's closed. I heard now that's Class closed, but they may be like revamping it or opening it. But that's another one that is the one I wanted to play at with the skate ramp.
Yeah, man. I've only played there one time. I think they're coming back as No Class. I've been seeing some things starting to get booked there. Someone invited me there Saturday, so I know they're functioning for sure.
Okay, dope. I'm glad to hear that. That we at least got something rolling there again.
Yeah, I grew up a metalhead and played in metal bands in high school. So Peabody's, they were like the one place in town that like if you were 16 years old, they'd still put you on, So like, and there was a lot of like, it was easy to get a lot of people excited about bands in high school because you're around hundreds of people every day, So brought some pretty big crowds through there. It was a good time every time, I remember my metal band, and this is crazy to think about now. We were called Fallen Martyrs, and we had like 3 brothers, who was awesome. And then my buddy Tom Farkas, he plays in a band called Bittersweet Revenge, who's another band in town. And rest in peace to Marky, by the way. He was the drummer of that band. He passed away 2 years ago now. But we had our start playing metal, and we were playing there, and we ended up on a bill with The Sword and Trivium. I don't know if you know your metal, but like those 2 bands nowadays are like really like they each probably sell out the House of Blues on their own. So
damn.
Yeah, that's big time.
Yeah, we were just some high school kids, and like in retrospect, I'm thinking like, man, that is really cool that we got to play that bill. But look at what they've done since like 2007 or whenever that was. It's crazy. They're both really big. I mean, they really took off. It's The Sword, especially. Trivium still like in the thrash metal, like prog metal scene. They're pretty big. So
yeah, I've heard of Trivium. I've not heard of those other two though.
The Sword.
Yeah.
They were, I think they probably took off once they were on Guitar Hero. One of their songs was on Guitar Hero called Frey.
Ah,
Good song. Good song. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun. That's a nice memory. I always like, and for a while actually, like I wasn't in any real bands from like high school. No notable bands till like 2016. So I was in like a 8-year gap, and for a while I was thinking like, man, like my biggest claim to fame is going to be that high school metal band. Like I'll never do anything cooler than what we did in that high school metal band. And I'd always use that as motivation to like still be hungry to like start my bands. And glad I am where I am, because luckily we found ourselves in a situation where I'm in bands again, and now that's my life again. But at one point it was like, man, am I ever going to do anything cool with music again, or did I peak in high school, as they say, But
Oh nah, dude. Yeah, you're so as we mentioned, as you just dove into, so yeah, Rubik's Groove, kick-ass band. I'm excited for that new music, but yeah, go check out their Rubik's Groove EP release last July, and also just like the name. Like when I mentioned the name of like one of my favorite local bands, I always mention you guys, and the first thing people are like, "That name is kick ass." It is sticking with me, and it works perfectly for the 9 members as well. Now that you have the 9 sides of a Rubik's cube, it's absolutely
no,
perfect.
what's funny is I didn't even love the name initially. We had like the longest, probably month-long decision when we deliberated on what we would call the band name. And we basically just kind of like accepted Rubik's Groove because we had a show booked and we needed something to go by. So like, but as time goes on, I'm like, man, that is the perfect name. Like, especially because, we're really starting to like have a different sound. We're not necessarily just funk, we've been like writing a lot of like heavier, grittier, kind of bluesier, like Midwest Rust Belt, straight, just like hard rock, like mixed with like, I don't know, like Americana type stuff. We just wrote a
Nice.
reggae song. I think I just wrote a reggae song just to like, it might be the Dreadlocks. I don't know. But it was like, there was like 4 members of the band that had mentioned it. And we have a trumpet player who has, he has like some effects and stuff that gives like some real deep like reverbs and awesome things. So I'm like, man, we have a lot of potential here, like with this, like. And then I tried to write a reggae song, and this thing like wrote itself. Like this thing was done within like a week. It just automatically worked like right away. And like I don't want to be a reggae band or anything full blown, but it was kind of cool to be like, oh well, like that works too. Like cool. So like that's just like another thing that makes me realize like, okay, yeah, Rubik's Cube is the perfect name, because like you just mix that thing right up, and just like we'll give you a
Yeah,
bunch of different colors. And
and a groove to roll with. Yeah, no, it's awesome, and yeah, that even gets me more excited that you're diving into stuff like that, as you described Shannon's voice being kind of like more bluesy, uh, focused
yeah,
or oriented as well. I'm excited to see how you guys are gonna absolutely kill that, and yeah,
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 this was her first band ever, by the way. So she it was pretty funny when she got to play her first show, and it was a full Beachland Tavern, like 100 people for your first show ever. I'm like, man, you're spoiled, dude. Like we all the times I like spent like with 5 people in the audience, and how many shows I had to do just to get to like 30 people.
yeah, right.
So I'm like,
yeah,
come
the
on,
grind.
you got it pretty good. I'm like, get used to like a few. You might come across somewhere there's not that many people. I'm like, one day. It took her a while to know what that felt like, but we've played a couple of empty ones. When you go on the road or try to do out of town gigs, usually you gamble and may not get the biggest turnout. Luckily we're very fortunate that we have a pretty good like following and a lot of good friends in town that like to come see us and support us, and a lot of fellow bands, and a lot of bands like really are like, we love them and they love us. A lot of this is kind of working together with your bands too in town. Like one thing I want to say is like, history pretty much shows you like bands come up together like in scenes. Like you think about the Seattle like grunge one, you think about like the metal scene out of London, and in like the 80s, and like Maiden and Priest, and like these things are like there's geographic, like I don't think it's coincidence either. It's like almost like a geographic, like just like lightning in a bottle, where you just get a giant collective of like good energy and artistic creativity like going on in like one particular area, and you kind of like have to take advantage by like working with each other to like lift each other up. And it's easy to get a
Yeah,
little competitive with each other, but like at the end of the day, I feel like the only competition is like the musician you were yesterday. You have to be like just better than the musician you were yesterday. Like you can't really look at the other bands as like, because being realistic, you can't play every show anyway. Like no band's gonna play every show ever that exists. So like it's good to see everybody get theirs, And like 2 years ago, pre-COVID, there wasn't that many like jam bands in town, but over COVID, we've actually had kind of a rebirth. There's like a scene coming up in that aspect with like Camel Butter. You got groups like Things coming up. You got Vibe and Direct back together, and in that like jam band scene, a lot of the dance music scene, which we'll fall into that like category sometime. We're not really like a jam band per se, because I really like writing songs in general, and like you'll have your moments for solos, but we do kind of like we like to jam for sure. We have a 3-hour set here coming up at the Foundation Room. We're probably gonna leave a lot of time to just improvise and wing it, because we just, I don't know, we love to do it, and we always seem to like, we find a great place and we get locked into the groove and we just roll with it. And I don't know, it's nice because you only really perform that once, whatever it is, whatever you leave 20 minutes to just wing, or 15 minutes, like you never do it like that ever again. So the audience usually likes it. I've actually had requests like to say people want us to jam more, and on a 3-hour set, when you got all that space to fill, it's like, why not?
I mean, I was gonna say, as a fan of a concert, that's my fucking favorite part as well, because you're like, no one else is gonna experience this if you're not here. This is the only time this is gonna be played like this, and you also get to see
Yeah,
musicians just tee off in the improvising aspect of it all, and you're just like sitting back and letting in, seeing where it goes. So, yeah, that's an
yeah,
incredible for both. So I'm glad y'all are doing that, but I'm glad as well. Like I don't really know too many of those bands, honestly. I need to get back out just in the scene in general, just seeing what's coming up, like you said, post COVID and whatnot, and what's taking over the Clee area.
yeah. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. I mean, more importantly, I think it just like we're finally back to a point in the scene here where it's like you have multiple shows to choose from on any given night, and so like for a while it was kind of like limited to like this show, that show. There's a big show here, but like now we're like at that point again where it's like, oh, you have to decide on what is the good show to go to tonight, and that's what's great. And I love all the different scenes. I kind of came up in the scene in 2016 in the songwriter scene. I was like acoustic songwriter, and like I love that scene too. I just went and saw Brent Kirby, who was the one who ran the Brothers 10 by
Yes.
3. I just saw his band, the Jack Fords, at Forest City a couple weeks ago with a band called the Buffalo Riders out of Akron, who's amazing too, by the
Yeah, I've
way.
heard of them.
Dude, they're so good. So
Mhm.
good. And Brent Kirby. But Brent Kirby, he's like a cultivator of like, he farms like songwriters, like he farms them. And like we're lucky to have him, man, because like he really, just like getting to know him and back then and meeting him and stuff, it was like, and what he did basically, I don't know if you're familiar with the Brothers 10 by 3 or not, but he would basically just force you. It was like an open mic that was organized, but you'd have to basically like perform 2 songs that you wrote. You could do a cover song too, but it basically, it cultivated a whole like movement of artists who write songs. And I think that stuff's contagious. It's really hard to write a song. Like it took me a really long time to like write a song that I didn't even hate. I would say like playing guitar is one thing, like getting good at that's one, but like writing a song and learning how to sing is a whole different thing. And like finding the confidence to do that, and then and then not hating it and showing it to
Yeah.
other people and getting them to buy into it. It's like, for some people, they're really talented and it does come naturally, but it did not work that way for me. Like I had to work really hard just to like get to that point, and it's cool. It's like I always try to preach, people. It's not really a knock on covers or anything, but it is nice to like see people out there writing some great material. And I know the city's like full of talented songwriters. I think some of the most talented songwriters I know are like hanging out in basements, like not on stages at all. Like
Hmm.
sometimes they just hide themselves away. I don't know if it's lack of confidence, but my buddy Jared, he's like one of the best I've ever met when it comes to lyrics, and I can't get him on a stage to save my life.
Dude,
So
it's the confidence and also the I don't know, just procrastination. There's always a small excuse,
yeah.
and I can figure out that. But back to Brent Kirby real quick. It's funny you brought up his name and kind of that or that whole thing that he does at Brothers, because so I'm working on
Mhm.
an album right now, and I'm working with a producer called Paul
Nice.
Nichols. I'm over in Bay Village, and he
Right.
was just preaching to me about Brent Kirby, how he thinks he is the greatest artist in the Cleveland area. Was telling me about,
Yeah.
yeah, going up there, you got to impress him, and then he'll bring you back the next week or whatever.
Hmm.
So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that he's or that's back up and running, at least Brothers Lounges in general, because I know people were
Yeah.
wondering
I'm not sure if he's still doing his 10x3. I think Brothers is easing their way back into like
the music part.
normal operating.
Yeah, but
But
yeah, it was just ironic. I literally just talked like I just heard that name for the first time over this past weekend, and it just keeps on popping up. So I'll definitely have to make my way out to see his band over the summer
yeah,
as well.
he's great. He's so good, man. He's great. He's got an amazing songwriter. Through the 10x3, I think I met like, man, so many good people I can't even explain. And I missed that scene. I don't know if you ever heard of the Dingy Basement Garden too, when that was going on. It was like a house show type situation they used to do in Lakewood, and my good friend Ryan Manthe used to host. But it was similar. It was basically like a house show version of the 10x3. It was kind of cool, and that went on for like 3 years. I think he had a total of like 160 different artists perform at his
Damn,
house over like the 3 or 4 years he did those,
that's awesome.
and bands from all over the country. So it was cool. It was a nice little like underground show. We had a nice following there. It was cool. It was really good. Met a lot of
So
good singers, huh?
so since we're talking about shows, playing out, all that, I
Yeah.
gotta ask, we ask every guest this. What's the most like bizarre or like strange thing that you've seen at a gig? And then also your favorite venue to play at.
Most bizarre thing I've seen at a gig.
Yeah, it can be good, can be bad, but just like out of the ordinary, that's like a crazy story.
Huh. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. How filtered are you guys on here? How like
Let it
Oh,
rip,
it's
baby.
explicit content,
Not for
so like
kids. I
that.
I click it on YouTube every time. This is not for kids.
Yeah, and it's flagged as explicit on Spotify and Apple, so you can say whatever you want.
Whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
man, there's a lot of things I feel like I could go with here. I mean, I don't know. The craziest thing I feel like that one's tough. I would say give me a minute. As far as my favorite place to play in town, that one shouldn't be too hard. I would say it's probably, the Beachland, or I do really enjoy the Foundation Room. The band really likes playing there. It's really like, if you've never been in the Foundation Room, it's like the most beautiful room in the world. And it's above the House of Blues. It's like a little like secret little, I
Dang,
feel like
I've not been there.
they've made this like room out of magic carpets or something. Like it's just like, it's just, and they have like, it's just like, it seems like ancient artifacts all over the room. Like it looks like a room straight out of like Persia or something, like some valuable, like just giant castle, like room for like, it's like the king's quarters or something. Like you feel like you're in like royalty when you're up there. So For the aesthetic, like that room is really cool, and they have great sound because like it's like the carpeted walls and these magic like carpet walls. It's like a really interesting sound. It's like you don't get bounce. It's like nice and like tight sounding room, and it's got a really cool bar. The guy Julius that runs it, he's amazing, and he's got a real good taste for good music. Always has good bands up there. So what he'll do is usually like throw a band up there, usually do like a free show, and then so on House of Blues shows, in between, in like the intermissions between bands on the main stage, he'll have like a band up in the foundation room, so that people can like circulate in there and still have music to go to while like, you know, so and so setting up between bands and this and that. And
Oh, that's awesome. Great idea.
yeah, and even still, you know, we were actually supposed to play with Turquoise. Unfortunately, Turquoise broke up the week before. I couldn't believe it. So I really wanted to play that gig. We manifested that gig. We saw Turquoise coming here. We're like, we got to get on that. And so we got in the foundation room. You know, we had to like please Julius and make sure he thought we were worthy of playing with Turquoise, or, you know, at least in the foundation room while they were on the main stage. And yeah, and then he got us on the Turquoise bill. And so I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Like Turquoise, they're like one of the bigger bands in the scene. And they, you know, what's nice about them is they are like similar personnel wise. They got like female front, you know, and like funky, and like a band that's like right in our wheelhouse, and a band that like we look to as like an inspiration, really. So the fact that we manifested that was great. And then the fact that they broke up like right before that show was supposed to be played was a huge bummer. I think the band got really bummed out about that. And that was around the time we took a break. That was back in like November. So foundation room and Beachland. I would say tavern. I don't know if the band fits in the tavern anymore. I really do like Coda. They're really small, but there's something about Coda that's really cool too. I don't know. It's a really cool place. And I wish I like had some outdoor venues to say, but I don't really can't think of any outdoor venues that I've played. Usually it's like in some rigged together stage at a barn or something, but like those are great. But in the Cleveland area, I would say like those two, and honorable mention to Coda, because, you know, they always put on good original music. They're a big pusher of the original music scene too. And if you're a band that's looking for a chance to try out shows for the first time, like Coda's like always willing to put on people and give them like a first opportunity to do something. So I owe them a lot of thanks for like getting a lot of my bands going in the beginning. I think most of my bands played their first shows there, and I want to say my bands have outgrown that stage. I mean, Rubik's has outgrown the stage, literally.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But the place don't fit that much. It's kind of like an underground speakeasy kind of deal there. So you can't fit that many in there.
It's unique though when you're walking down those stairs and like, you know, you're in for something. Doesn't even matter who you're seeing. You're walking down there. You're like, all right, we're all in this together. Let's roll.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm trying to think of the goofiest thing that ever happened. That's such a good question. There's so many options here. There's so many options. What can I say? I want to give you like 6 different things. I don't know. I mean, okay, so like, well, we played Creation one time, and I think this Creation is an event. By the way, I want to give that a shout out because that's coming up on May 14th. My friend Robin Blake, Sound Experiment, that's his band. He's amazing talent, and be on the lookout for Creation. But so we played Creation 2.0, Rubik's Groove did. And somebody there had mushroom tea. So like the band just said, oh yeah, why not? And I think like most of the band drank it before we played. And I think we played a set like we'll never play again. like never. We even had like a substitute. I think we had a fill-in bass player that night too. I don't know if he got into that. Cody filled in from Sea Level on bass with us that night, and I think the fact that it was so spontaneous and like not planned, and it was just like, whoa, mushroom tea, yeah. And then the whole, like, you know, little did I know, most of the band wanted to as well, so we all did. And then a lot of people said that was like the best they'd ever heard of us up to that point. So I was like, okay,
That's
Maybe
awesome.
not a coincidence.
no. So that was an interesting thing. I feel like I don't know where to go with this. There's a bunch of things. Reagan Leafs had like tons of crazy experiences on stage. I feel like we've had people sword fight like in front of the stage that we've played before, because
Dude,
that's like a Viking metal band.
yeah. I was gonna say we haven't even like talked about Ringleaf. Can you like
Yeah.
just dive into what that is and everything that it is? Because it's honestly one of the most unique projects I've ever seen in my life.
That's like a Viking metal band. It's basically Shelby Sangdahl. It's her. She's Reagan Leaf. She's basically a Viking. She's buried deep into the Viking culture. It's like her. She's got Vikings blood. It's part of her heritage, and so she embraces it. She's part of like the Viking reenactors, and Reagan Leaf was her Viking name, and so she formed her own band. And we got Bob Connor, who plays in a band called Mild Animals too. Shelby, she played with Sean Brewster for a long time, and she's played with tons of people. I've seen her play with Maddie Finn back when it was Whiskey Hollow was first starting up, and she got around before, she kind of solidified her own band. And then Jeff Larch, he plays in a bunch of projects. He's in so many bands. He's a BW grad. He plays a lot of metal. He's actually producing, like, him and I are kind of co-producing our I don't want to say if it's a record right now. I don't know if we're going to release these songs as singles or a record, but we're producing our music right now. We just got done tracking some last week, so we've been tracking little by little each week, but we got those four. But I actually joined, so I'm not an original member of Reagan Leaf. It was Steve Wright was the original guitar player, who's another songwriter based out of Cleveland. I think he moved down to Akron since. I think he's down there now, but I filled his shoes. My first show with Reagan Leaf was in New York City at the Bowery Electric, so that was kind of crazy.
Damn.
Like, I joined and they were like, oh yeah, we're going on tour to whatever, like New York and Pittsburgh and Columbus. I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
Timing.
That is amazing. That's like what every
Yeah.
person wants to do when they start a band, and that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, we just walked around. I had like this leather jacket. So this is a cheat code. And since we ain't got a filter, I'm going to take advantage. But like, I had a leather jacket that my friend gave me. It was like, dude, just like the fanciest high-end jacket. I have no business having this jacket, but my buddy gave it to me. And it had this, like, the chest pocket was like cut out in the bottom. So you had like unlimited storage in the jacket, because like the bottom of the pocket led to like the inside of the jacket, like the lining.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And so I was able to carry like a quarter of mushrooms, some marijuana, and a bottle of whiskey with me, like all around the street.
All in one pocket.
And we were able to get away with that. And so I'm not gonna lie, that was an experience. If I wasn't able to pull that one off, I think it would have not been as enjoyable of a time as it was. But
Mary Poppins doesn't have shit on
original
you.
travel bag.
Yeah, Mary Poppins doesn't have shit on you, man.
yeah, exactly. Dude, I'm like, now every coat I get, I'm like, I gotta cut that pocket out. Like, all that extra storage, like, no one's gonna find that. But, so that was fun. And then that was the first show I ever played with them. I remember I was still very like skittish in the band, and I wasn't really on top of my stuff. Nowadays they're letting me like write songs with them, which is cool. Like, we're recording like the first song I wrote with them, which is like a very like, I don't know, it's almost like a Middle Eastern ish kind of. I really like Baroque and like old style, like medieval music a lot. That's why I was interested in Reagan Leaf in the first place. And it was funny because I was like one of Reagan Leaf's biggest fans. And I remember I was a huge fan of them when I saw them the first time. And I go back and see them again and again. And then I finally got on a show with them, just me solo. And then like whatever, 8 months later, they like asked me to be their guitar player. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I mean, Frusciante had the same story with the
I
Chili
was gonna
Peppers.
say.
He was a big fan, man, and he was friends with Hillel Slovak, the first guitar player. So kind of worked out the same way for him. I thought, okay, that's so cool. Like how nice of them to let me play with them. Like, of course I'm gonna say yes. So yeah, that's been cool. And
when was that? So when did you join this band?
I joined them in 20. I want to say that was 2019. So I think around the time like Rubik's Groove was forming, I was asked to play with Reagan Leaf the month before that. So they asked me to play. Like right a month before Rubik's Groove formed, I joined Reagan Leaf. And yeah, that was cool. We recorded an album in a cave in Tennessee. That was cool. It's called Descent. That was fun.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was sweet. That's all over. Whatever your streaming services are, that one's pretty cool. And but now we're starting to like and both bands like produce their own material usually, which is kind of nice. You know, I like to be in control, and I like to like I don't like to be on the clock. I'm very like open to like last minute changes to things. And sometimes, you know, if you're on the pressure, like the clock to like get things down in a studio, you don't have that like opportunity to like be open to new changes. You kind of have to be like, all right, this is how it is. This is how it is. So like self-producing is like really important. We're like lucky in 2022 with the technology we have that you can make your own records in your own whatever practice studio. So we take full advantage of that. And like the new Reagan Leaf material is sounding like we're going through a big shift in sound for the better. Because okay, so it started just as instrumental, but now we have like a full-time vocalist, and so that's cool. So now we can get like lyrical, and I write lyrics for him. And so it's funny because like 5 years ago I couldn't even write lyrics that I wanted to sing, and now I can write lyrics for other people to sing. It's crazy to think about. So
yeah.
But man, I was like at one point like so not confident in any songs I ever wrote. I remember it was a one friend of mine actually who passed away 2 months ago, Kyle McKenna. But he basically told me in one song I wrote after I was going through a breakup with a chick, I was really hard on myself at that particular time. And I remember he told me like that song that I wrote, which is called Lemmy, it's on the Rubik's Groove EP, was like one of the best songs he'd ever heard like a friend of his write. And I feel like that was like one of the keys to like building the confidence. So rest in peace to Kyle, but I'll never forget him telling me that. And like that was just a huge step for me, man, like as far as being able to write my own songs and just be more than a guitar player or whatever, you know. Like it's really tough, but
it is tough, man. But I mean, everything that you've told us, the passion that we can hear behind your voice when you're talking, man, just shows that you're freaking made for this. And I'm glad that it's consuming your life. And I'm glad we got to hear all about it, man.
Yeah. You guys, how long you guys got? You got to wrap up pretty soon, right?
We usually have, what are we, coming about an hour? So let's just run through it real quick. So give us the dates again and places for Rubik's Groove in the next couple months so we can let the people know one more time.
So Rubik's Groove, May 6th, place called Crowbar. There's a new place in town. It's the old Croatian Tavern on East 33rd and St. Clair, right around the corner from the Agora. Our friend Jared just bought this bar. He wants to turn it into like a music hall. It's kind of low key. It's kind of a new spot. Like he's transforming it, if you will, into like what used to just be like a basic tavern is now going to be like a music hall that does music all the time. And they are going all in. They're doing like Latin dance on Tuesday, DJ nights Thursday, like bands on Friday, like they're going all in. So like shout out to him for like giving another place to really put music on, you know. And that's kind of cool. It's always good to have another place like that. So we got that, and then the following week, 5/13, we'll be at the Foundation Room. That's a free show, and I would recommend coming to that if you want to see the coolest room in town. I mean, the Foundation Room is the coolest room in town. You got your little the balcony at the Foundation Room is amazing. You got the overlook at East 4th. You're basically on the rooftop of East 4th. So
Right on.
I think the
great place
Stallions might
there.
have to be there. I think I might have to roll on up and see all these magic carpets
Yeah.
and y'all in
Oh, yeah.
person.
And then Reagan Leaf is at Coda April 29th with Community Shoe and Wohop Madness. Those are good friends of ours. I used to play in a band with Garrett from Community Shoe, and that's Micah Foster, who's in that band. And then Tyler Hawes is the Baldwin Wallace grad. He is in Wohop Madness. Unbelievably talented musician. And the Crowbar gig, that's with Camel Butter too, who's another up and coming band. They literally like, you know, COVID like set back every band in the world except Camel Butter. Don't ask me. Like, I think they played the Nelson Sledges like in the woods, and that like just immediately just garnered all this attention. And they've been like rolling, like, so they found a way to like turn COVID and like they came out of it like hot, and now they're doing like a lot of big shows. And so I wanted to like have them set the tone that night and like open up for Rubik's Groove. So they'll be opening that one up. And Red-tailed Hawk Luna, the DJ, he's going to be closing that night out. So Rubik's will be playing in the middle of that at Crowbar. And then, Apostle Jones too. They worked very hard during COVID too. I just want to give them a shout out,
I love
because them
Mikey.
and Camel Butter. Yeah, I think those two bands were both like the two bands that really worked hard through COVID and came out like even better than, you know, when COVID started, you know. So
Yeah, no,
two
they're
hard working, hustling groups. I
it
wanted to
is.
hustle, but it was illegal for 8 people to be in a room together.
yeah.
You know,
The band itself,
I
not
had
the
to,
max.
I had to, I actually found a way. I had to do this to like set up the band in 2 separate rooms, and then like have us play with headphones.
Okay.
So
Nice.
the people in this room could hear the people in that room. The people in that room could hear the people in this room. So when Rubik's Groove was getting back to practicing again, I was like, I couldn't stand by and like let us do nothing. I'm like, I have to do something, man. Like, so I figured out a way to like do that, and it was actually, it worked well. Like, I learned a lot actually about just like setting up bands and like how audio flow works. I mean, audio engineering, all that crap. So that was nice, man. That kept us going when we really needed to. And but we still have a lot of making up to do, because we were really firing on all cylinders pre-COVID, and we're trying to like get that momentum back. We got a few festivals this year.
Nice.
that
Which
we really
ones?
we got Dream Fest, which is down in like Southern Ohio.
Okay.
Dustin Smith and the Daydreamers puts that festival on. There's a lot of good local bands on that. Even we got Camel Butter, we got Land of Panda, Bear Fuzz out of Columbus. There's a lot of good Ohio bands on that one. And there might be a couple more. I don't know. It's looking like there might be a couple more we might get on, I'm hoping. So, you know, that I think we're trying to, each year you kind of look at as like a chapter where you kind of hope for more out of yourself. You would try to like level up from what you did last year and set expectations to do more. And whether that's going out of town and doing more stuff, like just taking risks and trying to do like more things and not get stagnant, I think is the most important thing, is to just like avoid being stagnant with music. It's like always kind of try to get more out of it, because you can go, it's like limitless where music can take you, honestly, you know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
But it's been fun. I would have like loved to talk more records and vintage.
So that
Well,
is what,
dude, we totally can.
yeah, that's what I was gonna honestly say, is like we're definitely gonna have you back. We'll have you in the studio.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
We'll make sure. Yeah, honestly, we can even like, I don't know. We'll think of something fun to do with it. Maybe all of us can like bring our top 5 records that we all own, and we can discuss and argue and get all up into the music. But yeah, but nonetheless, man.
I'll give you. I have all these random. I text you like a bunch of them already, but like record, I gotta just throw in the mix.
Oh, let's see it.
It's called Uptight by Booker T and the MGs, who you might know from Green Onions. And
Okay.
well, he's a legend, obviously. I mean, this guy's one of the most important like keyboard players that we've ever had. Like him, Herbie Hancock, like these guys are like legends. So, but the Cleveland Riots in the late '60s, he made a record. He made the soundtrack for the movie that documented the Cleveland Riots, and that record's called Uptight. And it's an amazing record. I think it came out in like '69. Like super hidden gem of a record that like nobody knows about. I mean, Booker T's like super underrated on his own. He also did a cover of Abbey Road. The Booker T and the MGs did a cover of Abbey Road called Macklemore Avenue. And speaking of, we were talking about Detroit earlier, that they did that at Stax Records, and Macklemore Avenue was the street that Stax Records was on. So I had to just drop those two. That's like the two that I've been like listening to lately. And
well, we're
a
gonna
little bit of Cleveland history in there on that Uptight one I had to mention, you know.
I love it. We need to dive in. We need to get that added to our playlist ASAP. And man, we'll absolutely get you on. And like I know you're a music history buff, and we've talked about it over text as well. But we'll make sure the Stallions will give us the voice to talk and discuss.
Check your Instagram tomorrow, because 100% at my day job tomorrow, I am listening to Uptight, and I will give you feedback, because, like, yeah, I'm all about that shit. Like, let's go.
Yeah, it's old school, but it's really good for the soul music that, like, just speaks. I mean, it's just like, you just don't make music like that anymore. I was lucky to see Booker T when you remember the Inkaya Festival Cleveland had?
Yeah, yes.
He played that. I of course I went. It was amazing. Like I couldn't like I went strictly just for him. There was a lot of good stuff on there, but like when I saw he was on there, I'm like, man, I'm not missing that. Like I think for 3 years straight, he was my most listened to artist on Spotify.
Damn.
Okay.
We got to dive, Club.
And I'm a guitar player.
Absolutely.
I'm not even a keyboard player. I'm a guitar player. I just love it, man. But you know, I'm appreciative of all things music. It don't got to be guitar to like get me interested, you know. Absolutely. Anything, really.
Absolutely. Anything. Well, man, it's been a pleasure, James. I really appreciate you again coming on, talking with us. We'll 150,000% have you back, but hopefully we see you before that at some of those shows coming up here in April and May.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys letting me speak. It's been a blast.
Yeah, for sure.
So our pleasure.
I got like at least an hour more of this, so
we have all the time in the world, baby. So we'll make sure we get you back on to keep on talking, because that's the beauty of this podcast. Yeah. We can just go on and something new, blah blah blah. Keep it going.
Thanks for doing something like this. It's kind of giving me like some ideas on, you know, I really like music history. I think it would be really cool to like do some sort of like podcast that touches on music history, you know.
Absolutely.
I remember seeing like one day, like this is the last thing I swear I'm going to say, but like there was a day I remember seeing like, I want to say it was like August 15th, 1996 or something, where like, I think it was Jimi Hendrix played his Woodstock set. Like the Beatles like they tracked like their final tracks that they ever did. And like, there was like these 4 epic things that all happened in like the same day.
Damn.
And I like almost wanted to do like a whole thing on just all that stuff happening in one day, and how like obviously the Abbey Road and Hendrix Woodstock performance, I mean, they're going down as like serious like moments in music history. And it was just kind of cool to like know like, damn, on different sides of the world, those two were like getting it like at the same time. And it was just like, I was like, man, I wonder if I could get like, it almost made me want to start doing like a music history podcast, just thinking about that. So
I was gonna say we could celebrate that day right here.
Yeah, it's easier than it seems, like as far as like being able to get it out there. And if you ever are just like, hey, like I think I'm gonna do this, and you just want like some recommendation on like software, like like how to distribute it and all that, just shoot us a text or DM, and like happy to help.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, you guys do good things. Thanks so much.
For sure. We'll keep it rolling into the summer, but yeah, let's do a little bit sign out. And I'll tell you, James, if you haven't listened to the end of our podcast, we're a bunch of stallions and we like to neigh at the end of it. But yeah, let's do a little bit of a sign off. So my name is Spruce,
I'm Clep.
James.
and this has been another episode of
Final Stallions.
No!